Tera Psychic Meganium is coming to 7-star Tera Raid soon in Pokémon Scarlet and Violet. In today's video, I'm going to try to brainstorm a couple builds using Bug Type Pokémon that could be good for this fight. Stick around because I will make some honorable mentions at the end of Pokémon that we may already have built in our inventory. I was brainstorming what Pokémon to use with our moderator, Mr. Joe, in the Sass Squad Discord. Being a big fan of Bug Type Pokémon, I saw this as an opportunity for some of them to shine. The first thing I usually like to do is check out Meganium to look at its stat product and its potential moveset. I'm a little familiar with Meganium and knew that it was a little more balanced on stat side. So when we look at Meganium, knowing that it's going to be Psychic Tera, I looked to see what type of psychic moves it can learn, and typically that's how we can determine if it's going to be a physical or special attacker. Because Zen Headbutt is the only psychic attack that Meganium can learn and it is physical, I think it's safe to say that Meganium is going to be leaning on the physical side. Not to mention that it does get access to moves like Swords Dance and Curse, which typically are attack boosting moves. So based on this knowledge, even if Meganium does happen to be a mixed attacker running Solar Beam or something like Leaf Storm as well from the special side, the real scary threat for Meganium is going to be it boosting its physical attack and hitting you from the physical side. And when we look at Meganium's defenses as well, they're the same in 100 base stat. Meganium can learn Reflect and Light Screen, so there is always a chance that it does use one of these at the start of the fight. With that all out of the way, what are our potential candidates here for Meganium? So because Meganium has access to fighting moves, we don't particularly want to just build a dark type Pokemon just yet. And also because it has access to knockoff, Ghost might not be the best option as well. I also wanted to keep in mind that Meganium does get access to ground moves, which could be problematic for certain Pokemon. And with Bug being the only other type that Psychic is weak to, that's where I started my search. So knowing that Meganium more than likely is going to be attacking from a Grass, Psychic, Ground, Fighting, Dark, potentially even typing, there are a few Bug type Pokemon that came instantly to mind. Usually I'll go to Cerebi and just sort the generation by typing, but without even looking at this list, I instantly thought of Scizor. Being a Bug Steel type does make Scizor neutral to ground moves, while also being able to resist the grass moves and the psychic moves. Keep in mind that this is a theory crafting video and these aren't definite movesets or EV spreads. I'm just trying to get your mind churning about what potential Pokemon you could use in this fight. And also feel free to comment below what you're considering on using in this fight. I always love to see the variety of what people like to build for these raids. So instantly, my thought was Scizor with Technician, Shell Bell, Swords Dance, potentially Iron Defense because of the attack boosting nature of Meganium, and having Fury Cutter and Lunge. Lunge being a move that guarantees an attack drop on your opponent, which would be very helpful at neutralizing the offensive threat from Meganium, potentially making this fight very easy. Fury Cutter is good because the more that you use this attack in succession, it does increase the attack of it. So with Technician, the Technician boost that it gets, on top of being Tera Bug and being weak to Bug type, this could be a pretty solid start. I mean, by default, this is probably what I'm going to attempt to do the solo raid with first. But moving outside of even just potentially strong Bug attacker, in the same typing, I thought Forrestress could be a very interesting pick for this fight as well as a support Pokemon. So in a group, this could be very viable depending on what we need. I have listed here Light Screen and Reflect. We more than likely aren't going to need both of these, but Forrestress has access to both of the screens. So depending on what the attack is weighted in, special or physical with Meganium, you could pick. Forrestress does also get access to Lunge, which is another move. Pretty much all of these Pokemon you'll see a very similar type of theme where they're either going to have some sort of Lunge or Struggle Bug to help lower special attack or physical attack respectively. And again, we're going to want to interchange these moves depending on what Meganium's moveset ends up being in the final. Also, Helping Hand on Forrestress is a nice icing on the cake to help support, but I would recommend this Forrestress primarily if you know that you're going to be playing in a party of people and maybe they need more of a support Pokemon on the team as opposed to another attacker. In the same idea of using a support Pokemon that's a Bug type, I was looking at Yanmega, and typically Yanmega is a special attacker, but with this build, this would primarily focus on an offensive physical attacking Yanmega that could be good as a support Pokemon as well, and then potentially set up and help close out the fight with Swords Dance and Lunge and Skitterspec. So the idea is that you have Screech to help buff your attack on top of that, And then Lunge is a physical move that can lower physical attack, and then Skitter Smack is a physical move that can lower special attack. So say that it ends up being physical Meganium, you're going to be using Lunge. And you might not need Skitter Smack, so potentially you could always remove Skitter Smack for Leech Life. Pretty much the way I would look at this is run Lunge or Skitter Smack depending on which variant of Meganium it is, and then put Leech Life as the other physical attacking move. That way you can create some sustain throughout the fight. This build may potentially not even need Shell Bell. It might even work with Metronome, just due to the fact that we're going to be lowering the offensive presence of the Meganium while being able to self-heal with Leech Life. The final bug I want to mention is Volcarona. This one seemed kind of funny to me because this Pokemon has Flame Body, and if Meganium does end up being a physical attacking Pokemon, then Volcarona's Flame Body ability is going to come in very handy here. And keep in mind that because it is a bug type, the weakness to ground is neutral. So there's really no huge offensive threat from Meganium against Volcarona, and if it does end up being physical and it gets burned, it's just going to shut down the Meganium for the whole fight. So yes, same idea here. You can get Struggle Bug, Lunge, Calm Mind, Bug Buzz. But yeah, like I said, you would kind of go through and pick one or the other depending on what the fight actually needs. And then there's always the opportunity to use something like Light Screen with Volcarona as well. You do have Morning Sun. You could also run Quiver Dance over Calm Mind. It's pretty much the same idea. And yeah, for the most part, this could be a pretty insane support set. You could also run Harden as well if you really wanted to, if you really needed that. But I feel like you don't need Harden when you have something like Lunge, which is essentially raising your defense as well by lowering the raid boss's attack. These are some potential bug Pokemon that could be used in this upcoming raid. I love bug Pokemon, so I'm going to try to use some of these myself. I did mention at the beginning of the video that I was going to make an honorable mention. I did want to mention a Pokemon that we built during the Mewtwo raids months ago, and that is Bug Tera Mew. So Bug Tera Mew may potentially just be a good Pokemon to use in this fight as well, with the whole Leech Life healing back situation going on. And Mew just typically has pretty good natural bulk. So if you already have this Pokemon built, there's a very good chance that this may in fact be a good Pokemon to use in the raid. And also there is more of a support variant of Mew that people were running as well to help neutralize the offensive threat from that Mewtwo back in the day. And just an honorable mention at the end of the video, Hisuian Goodra might be a pretty decent Pokemon for this fight, just because of its natural bulk and good resistances to the fight, and the ability to kind of out bulk the Pokemon that we are facing, that being Meganium. Maybe I'll get a little more into this. Maybe if you have some ideas and you're watching and you want to post your ideas for Hisuian Goodra in the chat, but for the most part, I just wanted to highlight these 4 bug Pokemon, mainly the Scizor, potentially Volcarona, and the 2 support Pokemon, which could be kind of fun to use. Thanks for watching the video. I hope you got something out of this, and hit that like button. It does help my content out a lot here on the platform. And with that being said, the Sass Squad is getting stronger each and every day. You have a good morning, evening, afternoon, wherever you're tuning in, and I'll see you this weekend for Meganium Raids.